In this video, you'll learn how to add and edit fields to collect additional data using Sugar Market forms. Before we jump into building, let's review the different categories of form field options within the form builder. Basic fields are fields that can be used to collect the form responses with free response choices like single-line text, multi-line text boxes, email options, phone number fields, and password fields. I also have choices that allow me to narrow down the user's responses with fields such as radio buttons, checkboxes, drop-down menus, slider scales, switches, as well as a reCAPTCHA button. Structural fields are fields that can be used to enhance the structure of your form. Text boxes allow you to add a header or additional text descriptions to your form. This could be used to inform the user that they will be cookied upon form submission. Lastly, there are options that will auto-populate for the user, such as time and date in hidden fields. Horizontal lines could be used to break up the form questions, and the spacers will insert invisible blank spaces to increase the area between your questions. Before I work on the style of my form, I first want to lay out the fields that I want to add. The purpose of this form is for users to reach out to our organization through the Contact Us form. So I want to be sure to collect enough valuable data so that the correct person will reach out to them. Since I started with a pre-styled form theme template, first name and last name are already added as well as email. So I'm going to add a single line text field to capture the company information. And when I've added that field to the form, the editor will display automatically, where I'm able to create my field name. The field name tells me which question is being answered when I view a form response. In this case, the question being what company they're with. Next, I'll add my field placeholder text if appropriate. The placeholder text gives the person filling out the form a short hint describing the expected value or form response that they should be giving you. After creating the field and generating the field label/question, we'll want to select which field within the CRM we'd like this field to map to. In this example, I'm capturing their company name, so I want it to map to the company name field or account name field within the CRM. First, I will need to toggle the map to field on, search for the field by starting to type it in, then select the appropriate field. The CRM fields hard map to fields within Sugar Market, so please select the field that is most appropriate based on the fields you have set up on the CRM side. If you're unsure of which fields hard map to Sugar Market fields from your external CRM, I would leave the overwrite data toggled to on. Next, I can set a max amount of characters that a user is able to type into the field. To do so, I'll toggle this on and set the value. I could set a default value for this field that will display if the user does not change if you would like, but we're going to leave this off for this example. Finally, we can add a required toggle. This is optional since too many fields could deter someone from submitting a form. But for this example, I would like to collect this data, so I'm willing to take the risk. Now that my changes are made, I'll click Apply. Repeat the steps for any additional fields of information you're looking to capture. Next, I'm going to add a checkbox field to inquire about which product they're requesting more information about. The checkbox allows the user to multi-select in case they're interested in more than one product. First, I'll update the field name, then I'll update the field label, then I'll map to my custom product interest field. For this specific example, we don't need to overwrite the existing data since that data is being collected within this form. Now I have two choices for list options. First are Sugar Market choices. Next are manual choices that are my own custom values I'll enter myself. And here we'll need to update the display and return values separately, but we're going to start by updating the display values first. I can add additional rows by selecting the plus sign that says Add Row next to it. And once I'm done adding my value choices in the display column, I can click into the context menu above and either clear my options if I wish to start over. I can change the row order from here. I also can add additional rows through this mechanism as well. Or I have an option to mirror my display values, which is what I'll be choosing. This will copy the display values over into the return values column. I can use drag and drop to rearrange the rows. I have options to adjust the list or label orientations. And I'm also able to add a default value too if necessary. And for this example, I'll make it a required field. When ready, select Apply. The final display field that I want to add is a drop-down to inquire about where the user is located. This will let the sales rep who receives the alert know which time zone the lead is in. I'll first update the field name and label for this field. I do want to add a placeholder text. If I didn't add this, my drop-down would display the first value listed. Next, I'll map to the mailing state field. For this option, I will choose to overwrite this data within this drop-down. There are additional sugar market choices available to me, like states, countries, and numbers. To save the user's time, I'll select the state option. This now lists all possible states within the United States, with the display value written in full and the return value abbreviated. If the return value should be written in full, you can click into the context menu and click Mirror Display Values. I can also delete the values that I don't want to include by clicking on the X on the right side of the value. Next, I'm going to leave the default value turned off. And I'm going to make this a required field, then click Apply. The last field I'm going to add is going to be a hidden field that tracks the lead source for the user submitting this form. The URL parameters we enabled, which are also hidden fields, will track the tags from the URL, essentially telling us where the user navigated to our form from. The purpose of this additional hidden field will tell us how we collected their data and if they're a new lead. Their field name, just like any other field, will be an internal description for this field. The field value will be the value that populates for all users who submit this form on their lead source field if they're a new lead. Since their lead will have been created through this form, I will add the lead source as the form name. Next, I'll map the standard lead source field. I'm choosing to turn off the overwrite data option because I only want to collect this data if this is a new lead being created through this form. If their record already exists, I want to keep their known lead source. I'll also leave the map to event sessions toggled off since this is not a form that's going to be integrated with an event from the events module. And finally, I'll click apply and save my changes. By default, all users who submit a sugar market form will be created as a lead, not a contact. If you're not using leads or users who submit a particular form should be created as a contact, a hidden field could be used to map to the CRM type field with a value of contact. The 5 analytics URL parameters populated when we enabled the setting on the first step by default are not set up to map to the CRM fields. You can map to existing fields or create custom fields to map these values to, but you don't need to as these values will likely change often. If you choose to enable this setting, I would recommend that you have a plan as to what you would like to do with this information at the contact level. Now that I've added all fields and they're in the order I'd like, I'm ready to click to the next step to style my form. To learn more about styling your form, tune into the next video within the series.